Imagine it's a quiet Friday afternoon in one of Argentina's wealthiest suburbs. People are going about their day completely unaware that they're about to witness the most audacious bank heist in their country's history. This is the story of the 2006 Banco Rio robbery, an operation so clever it was called the robbery of the century. At 12:38 p.m., the first police call came in. A robbery was in progress at the Banco Rio branch in San Isidro. Within minutes, the area was swarming with police. Patrol cars, tactical units, negotiators, and snipers surrounded the building. News crews arrived, broadcasting the unfolding drama live to the entire nation. It looked like a classic hostage standoff. Inside, 5 masked men held 23 people, but there was no chaos, no shouting. The robbers were calm, almost professional. They reassured the hostages, telling them no one would be hurt. They were in complete control from the outside. The police prepared for a long negotiation, expecting to eventually storm the bank or wait for a surrender. The public watched, glued to their screens, waiting for the inevitable climax. But here's the twist. The real robbery was already over before the first police car even arrived. The whole hostage situation, the negotiators, the media frenzy, it was all a brilliant distraction. Because the true action wasn't happening in the bank's lobby. It was happening in a tunnel, deep underneath it. To understand why this was even possible, we need to rewind a few years. In 2001, Argentina suffered a devastating economic crisis. The government froze bank accounts, a policy called the crédito, trapping people's life savings. Trust in the financial system evaporated overnight. Middle-class families lost everything. For those who still had wealth, banks were no longer safe. People turned to safe deposit boxes to store their cash, jewelry, and undeclared fortunes. The Banco Rio branch had hundreds of these boxes in its basement vault, a treasure trove hidden from the authorities. To most, that vault was a symbol of security. But to one man, an artist and martial arts instructor named Fernando Araujo, it was the opportunity of a lifetime. Araujo wasn't your typical criminal. He was a thinker, fascinated by systems. He studied police procedures, negotiation tactics, and how to control attention. He was particularly struck by a botched 1999 bank robbery where a police raid, broadcast live, ended in tragedy. Araujo saw a pattern. Police always established a perimeter, brought in negotiators, and delayed action. If their response was that predictable, it could be manipulated. His idea was revolutionary. Instead of planning a frantic escape from the police, he would use the police as his cover. The standoff itself would be the main event, the grand piece of theater that allowed the real work to happen unnoticed. The escape would be a foregone conclusion. To execute this plan, he needed a technical genius. That's where Sebastian Garcia Bolster came in. Bolster was a meticulous mechanic who could build anything. While Araujo dreamed up the grand vision, Bolster figured out the mechanics. Together, they studied old city maps and discovered a network of storm drains running right under the bank, leading all the way to the nearby river. That was their escape route. They rented a house and spent months digging a tunnel. Every detail was planned with obsessive precision. The angle had to be perfect. The tunnel was reinforced with wood and lit with homemade wiring. Bolster even measured distances by rolling a bicycle tire down the street and dropping weighted strings into manholes. They built custom tools to crack open safe deposit boxes silently and bought inflatable boats for their journey through the drains. Crucially, they armed themselves with realistic-looking fake guns. The goal was control, not violence. The date was set, Friday, January 13, 2006. A busy day to guarantee a massive police response and maximum distraction. Early that morning, Bolster was already in the tunnel, waiting beneath the bank. Just after noon, the rest of the team walked into the bank and announced the robbery. Everything went exactly as planned. Hostages on the floor, calm maintained. One of the robbers, Luis Mario Vitet-Celens, became the voice of the operation. He was the perfect negotiator, calm, articulate, and persuasive. He spoke to the police for hours, constantly reminding them of past tragedies and urging them not to rush in. He even let hostages call their families, which drew more crowds and put more pressure on the police to avoid a violent confrontation. While the world watched the drama unfold on television, the real work was happening below. The team broke through the vault wall from their tunnel. They systematically opened over 140 safe deposit boxes, stuffing bags with millions in cash, jewels, and gold. They cleaned up with bleach to destroy their DNA, sealed the tunnel entrance behind them, and vanished into the storm drain network. Their escape was slow and disgusting. One of their boat engines failed, forcing them to paddle through filthy water, but they made it out. Hours later, at 7 p.m., police finally stormed the bank. They found the hostages completely unharmed. But the robbers? They were gone. The vault was empty. All that was left was a note that read, in a neighborhood of rich people without weapons or grudges. It's only money, not love. The media dubbed it the robbery of the century. For a while, it seemed like the perfect crime. But the most elaborate plans often don't fail because of a technical flaw. They fail because of human nature. The robbers returned to their normal lives, but the secret was too big to hold. A few weeks later, the wife of one of the robbers, angry over an affair, went to the police. She told them everything. Arrests were made. Some of the men went to prison, though much of the stolen fortune was never recovered. Years later, they would describe the heist as a form of art, a protest against a corrupt system. But the real lesson here is about what we can and can't control. You can map out a city's infrastructure. You can predict how institutions will behave. You can engineer a tunnel down to the last centimeter. But you can't engineer human emotion. In the end, it wasn't the police or a fatal mistake that unraveled the perfect crime. It was the messy, unpredictable reality of life that continued long after the job was over. Thanks for watching. If you found this story as fascinating as I did, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more incredible true stories. See you next time.